Appeals court ruled today Texas voter ID law violates the Voting Rights Act.
The court also said changes need to happen before the November election. KXAN's Aaron Cargile is here with initial reaction and what this means moving forward. Aaron?
Shannon and Robert, Texas Democrats are celebrating. The party has always thought the voter ID law discriminated against certain populations. Republicans disagreed. They feel requiring specific identification at the polls is needed to stop voter fraud. For a quick refresher, Texas lawmakers passed the controversial voter ID law in 2011. It required those living in Texas to show one of 7 forms of approved identification before they could cast a ballot. They were all government-issued photo IDs. Opponents argued it's not fair, claiming IDs on the list are difficult for low-income African-American and Latino voters to get. Today's ruling from the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals instructs a lower court to make changes that fix the, quote, discriminatory effect of the law. But the appeals court also says it needs to be done in a way that does not bring a lot of disruption to this year's election season. We spoke to the attorney for the group that's been trying to strike down the voter ID law. He's in Washington, D.C. tonight where the decision came down.
The state of Texas is spending millions and millions of dollars passing these unconstitutional, illegal laws and for political reasons, and spending taxpayer money getting these laws declared illegal and unconstitutional.
On the flip side, Attorney General Ken Paxton saying this: preventing voter fraud is essential to accurately reflecting the will of Texas voters during elections, and it is unfortunate that this common sense law providing protections against fraud was not upheld in its entirety. Governor Greg Abbott had a similar response and said Texas will continue to make sure there is no illegal voting at the ballot box. Robert and Shannon, back to you.
Aaron, thanks. For an in-depth look at what today's ruling means for the upcoming elections, we invited Texas Tribune reporter Jim Malowitz to join us live.
Jim, thank you for being here. A lot of people wondering what are the chances this case is going to end up in front of the Supreme Court?
Well, it looks pretty likely. This is one of 2 cases nationally, along with a case out of North Carolina that's a little bit broader, but includes voter ID, that experts say the justices are likely to take up as they're trying to draw this line between protecting the ballot box and voter disenfranchisement.
What kind of response might we see in the upcoming legislative session that starts in January?
That's a great question. This voter ID law is one that Texas lawmakers like to tout as the strictest in the nation. They do that nationally. But at the same time, it would be interesting and potentially risky for them to try to take any action after the court has already found parts of this to be constitutional, because the state's already spent about $3.5 million fighting this, and it would be a little bit risky to risk another lawsuit.
And how will this ruling today potentially impact the elections coming up in November?
It's really hard to say. I mean, if anything, it might confuse some voters as they're hearing again about voter ID law, something that they've heard since 2011. It's unlikely to impact, the presidential election, something so broad, but you never know what's going to happen in the more local elections if voters get confused, if they think they can or cannot come out to the polls.
Jim Malowitz, Texas Tribune reporter, we thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thanks for having me.